Perryville is known as one of the most haunted little towns in America. I think it's because so many of the residents, both those who've passed on from my childhood and those who still live today, have had an experience of some kind with that which they cannot explain.
The battle that happened in Perryville in 1862 was the Southern attempt to recruit and occupy Kentucky. 7,500 people killed, wounded, or missing.
There is a mass grave at the Perryville battlefield site. It's filled with 300 Confederate soldiers. They couldn't afford the time and the ground to bury those men individually. Many of them, as I understood it, were buried in very shallow graves. But a high percentage, in fact, maybe all the homes that date back to the Civil War were used in some fashion as a hospital or a staging ground for the young men that were left here wounded. And so it seems to me there's just a lot of spirits left in the town associated with the ground on which they either were convalescing or died.
We had this horrific battle fought in 1862, and there are stories from residents and visitors alike that they've seen ghosts or heard ghosts. There are several homes in town that have handwriting on the walls from soldiers who lay convalescing in the homes, maybe died. It was typical for them to write their name, their rank, and where they were from. Some drew pictures of home, a horse, a house, or to mother. That is very common. There's blood stains on the floors that could make you relive what that time was like. According to legend, Sam is a Confederate soldier who fought and died in Perryville, and it is said by visitors and residents alike that you can see him sometimes on a dark night, usually hot. He will walk out of the Opera House dressed in his full Confederate uniform, cross Merchants Row, and walk up the hill to the cemetery. There is one resident in town that will tell you they had a conversation with Sam. He just walked up into their yard and, "Hi, how are you doing?" "I'm fine, how are you tonight?" And it was during a commemoration. They talked to this gentleman, and she went in to get something for him to drink, and he was gone when she came back.
One of the accounts that's told here in Perryville of a haunting has to do with our local beautician. They were sitting on the front porch of the H.P. Bottom house, which is actually on the battlefield grounds. And she was with a friend of hers, and they were just enjoying the night when they had a Confederate soldier. They could identify him by the color of his regalia, walk out of the field, which is just in front of the home, as it sits now and did in the battle, and address them in generic form and said to them, "Ladies, the lamp will give our position away." And he turned and walked back in the same direction from which he had come, materializing, if you will, as he approached and dematerializing as he walked away.
In the Carrick Parks house, in front of the cave where the town was settled, there is said to be a young girl that lives in that house, and people, when driving by or walking by, have seen her appear in the window, and she looks down at them. She doesn't wave, she doesn't smile. She's just standing there looking out the window.
My personal ghost story from having been raised here in Perryville takes me back to the age of 10. At the time we were renting what is called the Crawford House that dates back to Civil War era. It was in fact Braxton Bragg's headquarters during the war. One was a Saturday afternoon. It's in the light of day. It's probably 2 o'clock, and I'm watching cartoons. I am prostrate on the floor with my chin in my hands when the spring-loaded door of maybe 30 inches wide opens, and suspends itself without relieving the tension in the spring whatsoever. I could hear it load because I'd opened it every day for the previous 2 years we'd lived there myself. And so I knew no one else was home, or at least I didn't know if they were. And I turned to look over my shoulder to see absolutely nothing there but the door remaining open. And so I didn't wait to see it close. I literally ran out of the house all the way to town to the business where my mother was working to tell her.
Learning history and learning what Perryville is all about and where it came from, if it's ghost, if it's architecture, or if it's the battle, just come see it, you know, experience it and learn something from it. I think that's what's important about the ghost probably in this town.
We have a wealth of history, and the hauntings are a part of that history. Our motto is, our history is our future. That's what makes Perryville